Dr. Mike Jones, Director at Migration Watch, an independent body concerned about the scale of UK immigration. Mike, Chris just said we take a relatively small number of migrants, of refugees, and it's way overblown in the media, in the popular press, by the government. What do you say to that, Mike?
Well, I respectfully disagree. We actually take in huge numbers of refugees through resettlement programs, whether those are for Ukrainians, Hong Kongers, Afghans, and in the past we've had resettlement programs for Syrians. So we are a very generous country, and we have a proud and honourable tradition of hospitality and asylum. But at the end of the day, we're a nation state, and there's a trade-off between being generous and protecting your country, protecting its infrastructure, ensuring that there's social cohesion. So asylum has to be done in the right way. It has to be democratic. It has to be subject to parliamentary scrutiny.
Do we have to look again at what a refugee is?
Yes, I think the Geneva Convention's definition is too vague. It's someone who has a well-founded fear of persecution. I don't blame the people who drafted the convention, because it wasn't a universal document. It was designed for the European continent.
It was, and that's the point made by Sola Braverman. If you are a gay LGBTQ plus person in a country where that is possibly something that would lead to your being killed by the state, are you a refugee?
There would have to be a direct threat to your life.
Direct threat is you can't be yourself. You can't be who you are. You can't express your essence, your sexuality. If you do so, you'll be executed.
Again, if there's a well-founded claim where there's a threat to violence to your life, then yes, possibly, but that's not the traditional definition of a refugee. A refugee is somebody who's fleeing war, violence, or conflict.
Persecution. The convention was created to help resettle people fleeing persecution.
Yes,
that sounds like persecution to me.
Well, again, persecution is often reinterpreted to mean discrimination. There are people living in the UK, the US, other European countries who are discriminated against, but that doesn't make them refugees. Obviously, if there's a direct threat to life, that's a very different matter. But the problem is, when you're assessing asylum claims, there's very often no documentary evidence. There's very often no third-party evidence. So it's very difficult to assess this. And this is often exploited by, for example, rogue lawyers, by the people traffickers themselves who tell...
What's a rogue lawyer?
Well, the Daily Mail recently had an expose where they sent an undercover reporter to various solicitors' offices, and their reporter claimed to be an economic migrant who crossed the Channel, and he wanted to stay in the UK. And the solicitors offered a series of false narratives to ensure that, he would cross all his I's and dot all his T's. And these narratives involved sexual exploitation, modern slavery,
unethical, absolutely unethical. I just wonder how widespread it is.